Here's what I'm running into on this front wheel. I'm trying to fit it up beforehand before I actually mount a tire to it. Uh, the wheel spacing, I just swapped some spacers out on the axle here to get it semi-close. This is earlier model wheel with the sealed bearings. It's 21 narrow glide, but I don't even know what year it's off of. It's old. It's looks like early 80s maybe. It's an aluminum hub, but I don't even know what that disc is off of. It's not mounted. It's mounted. It's got a spread out bore pattern on for the disc using little teeny bolts. Problem I'm running into is I've had to spaced brake disc out a little bit on the hub, and spokes are hitting the back of the caliper. So what I'm going to do is offset the hub here, or offset the wheel. So I'll loosen the spokes on the left side here and tighten the ones on the right. Start moving the rim over away from the caliper. You need probably I like to run probably at least 80 thousandths clearance in there, if not 100 thousandths between the back of the caliper and the spokes. They're right up on there. Uh, as close as I can get it over without having to pull the caliper off and shave the back of it down. Might have to do that anyway. We'll see how far I can get this thing moving. And then I'll true the rim up again to get it trim the rim up again to get it as straight as I can get it. I like to run them within about 30 thousandths hop and wobble. Hop is up and down, wobble is side to side. As close as you can get it that way, the better. And then we'll throw the tire on there. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow. Don't know. It's supposed to be pretty warm out today, so we'll see. Let me see if I can get this thing moving here. Got the exhaust part of the way off there. Had to soak the exhaust nuts in some lube. Got one of them to move a little bit. The other one's pretty damn tight. So I'm going to soak them and I'll probably heat them to get them out. Let me look like a big goofball trying to get up on this trailer. My bones are kind of stiff, but you need to make sure it's clear and everything. And it's the same way with the rear. It'll have a measurement off the rear if you have a spoked rear of where the rim's supposed to be in relation to the hub, as far as being this way or that way. Yeah, we still got quite a bit of ways to go for this thing. It's still hitting it a little bit on the back side there. And I haven't tightened the right yet. I'm just loosening up the top side to get them moving. And like I said, we might end up having to shave the back of this caliper anyway. And you're not taking off much. You'd be taking off right at the very bottom of it down here at the edge where it's closest to the spokes, if you had to take any off of there. Now remember, this is 40 spoke rim, so basically you got 20 spokes on the left and 20 spokes on the right. Every time it gets on an outer spoke, certain areas it wants to hit, you can hear it there. It's better, but it ain't great. Try and move it over a little bit more. It's a lot more to it than just slapping shit on there and thinking it looks good. You definitely don't want anything hitting the caliper or anything else, fender or anything. And these spokes rims will flex some. After you get them trued, you're going to tighten them. You're going to take a hammer and smack the top of the heads here. Just give them a little tap with a punch and a hammer. And then check the tightness again. And then after about 500 miles, you're going to want to ride the bike, and about 500 miles, you need to go back and retighten them. You don't need to take it off, you just need to tighten them. You check them. If you sit there and tap on them, you can tell if they're tight or not. A good and tight one will give off a different sound than a loose one. Oh hell yeah, it's a lot better. But still hitting a little bit, so we're in the right direction. Centralize, we pulled it to the right a little bit, not too much. So at this point, I'm gonna pull the caliper off there and shave it right on the edge. I can kind of see where it's sitting at. It's sitting right at the bottom edge of the caliper there. So I'll just cut that off at like a 45. Just going to grind it off of there. If I had a Bridgeport, I'd just chuck it up in the Bridgeport and shave it with an end mill, but I don't have that crap anymore. Alright. Yeah, that's a lot better, but you can still hear it hitting. And I really don't want to pull. Shim the disc out some, move the spokes over, and trim the back of the caliper a little bit. I've got about 125 thousandths clearance between the spokes and the back of the caliper. That's my pointer there moving on the wheel. That's about it right there. I still got to finish truing the rim, make sure it was within specs. Wobble looks pretty good with my little pointer on the side there, but I still need to stick a gauge on it and finish it up as far as that way. Make sure we ain't got no hop in it. I don't see any hop. Got maybe 50 thousandths of wobble in one spot. Maybe just eyeballing it. But when you're doing these, wherever your pointer moves, just take a Sharpie and mark on there and move it. And if you got a spot that goes wild, you know, like say it jumps 50 or 70 thousandths, but it's only in a spot like that big, like a couple of inches, maybe 2 inches, you should be good. You ain't probably never going to get it out. Where you're going to have a big spot is where the weld is, where they actually weld the rim together across the center here. You'll have a big spot right there usually. But, you know, if you practice, you can get it within 30 thousandths fairly easily. Hop is a little bit harder, up and down hop. Radial play is a little bit harder to get out. Those you kind of have to loosen one side, like loosen the bottom, and then tighten the top, and just keep doing that until you get it. And with your dial indicator on there, you'll be able to see which way it's moving when you're loosening and tightening. Hop is going to make the bike feel like it's doing this going down the road. Wobble is going to be side to side. I don't have to worry about it on this thing because I got a nice cast disc rear wheel, slotted disc on the back. If you ever feel like you're slowing down and you get about 35 miles an hour and you get a shake at like 35 and it feels like it's in the front end, usually it's the back spokes are loose. Everybody always, they'll say it needs a tire, or they'll do all kinds of crazy stuff to try and fix it and never check the back spokes. And that's the majority of the time. It's always the back spokes being loose. They'll go in and replace steering head bearings and fork oil and all kinds of crazy stuff, and it still does the same thing. You need to be checking those spokes about every 5,000 miles. It's called for on a 5K service. Almost nobody ever does them. I do them. I always do them. Every time I throw one on a lift for a 5 or 10K service, I'm checking the damn spokes. You hear that one? That one's okay. That was a little different. That was loose right there. That's about it for this one. Now, I might going to take a break here and go drink some coffee and probably eat a piece of fruitcake. It is New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve. And probably try and tackle that exhaust here in a little bit. That thing's pretty mangled, as you can see. Engine guard came around and smashed that thing up against the cam cover, and it actually broke one of the bolts for the top front mount. Snapped it off. That's a 3/8 bolt, so you know it hit pretty good on the nut plate there. On the nut plate that goes to the top front mount, where the head mounts, mounted to the head, and then it mounts to the frame up there. The one was loose, and it snapped the other one off. And it snapped the one off the bottom too. I don't know if you can see that big hole through the cross tube there at the bottom, where it ripped the bottom of the mount out down here. I'm not real concerned about that. Probably take that thing and hammer it back in place, and may or may not lay a piece of steel over top of it and weld it back in. That should be strong enough. It's just a brace for the frame there, stock brace. It's funny, all these bikes get totaled because stuff like that, like baggers, they'll total a bagger in a minute because that top mount is just a tab welded on the frame, and it bends that tab, and the insurance company raises a bitch about it being totaled because the frame's bent. Now, same insurance companies used to pay us to fix those. We'd hammer them back in place, and if it tore it off the frame, we just cut another one and welded it into place. And they'd pay for it because, $200 or whatever, $50 or $75, depending on how bad it is a hell of a lot cheaper than a $1,500 or $1,600 frame plus labor to do a frame change. They used to do us on soft tails where if they get smacked in the back, the frame rails where the fender mounts go, those things would be twisted. And we should just take and straighten them up. Had a gauge to do it with, made a gauge. You'd take that thing, had a tool to bolt onto the frame there, and we heat it up red hot and bend them back in place. I think we charged them $200 to do that. Insurance companies were happy to do it. Now they want to total everything. And that's fine, that's their business. Just means that you can get more good used parts and cheap bikes to fix to ride around on. All right, that's it for this one. It's coffee and fruitcake time, and maybe a little drinky poo. All right, you guys take care. If you like my content, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. Hit the notification bell. Y'all have Merry Christmas. Thank you.